And the thing that you have to give to both Google and Apple is that their more affordable phones both use the same chipsets as their higher end phones, the Tensor G4 and the A18. It's one of those things where because both companies have their own custom chips made specifically for their flagships, then it's actually cheaper for them to just reuse those chips in their more affordable phones than it would be to create some sort of separate manufacturing branch just to specifically make weaker chips. Now, there is one slight catch with the iPhone. See, when you're manufacturing chipsets, you don't always get a perfect result. Sometimes one of your cores isn't performing up to scratch. And so what Apple does in these instances is something called binning. And I don't mean just, throwing it in the trash. It's kind of the opposite. They'll manufacture the top-end chipsets first, and in doing so, they will just naturally find a bunch that have at least one defective core. But then instead of just, yeeting the chips entirely, they'll instead just purposefully disable those funky cores completely, and then use what's left of the chip for their non-flagship phones. So while it sounds like you get the same A18 chip on the 16E that you would actually get in the more expensive iPhone 16, it actually has just 4 graphics cores instead of the normal 5. But then on the other hand, Apple's A18 is so much more powerful than Google's Tensor to begin with that even with this slight nerf, the iPhone does completely destroy Google in real-world gaming environments. We're talking like a 40% plus lead. So 6 points to Pixel, 9 points to the iPhone. When it comes to software, though, we're at the stage now where it's not like either Android nor iOS is particularly missing any of the key features. They can both basically do everything. But what I would say is cool is that what you're getting on these two mid-range phones is still the best versions of those softwares. Like Google's promised 7 years of Android updates to this phone, and Apple's promised 5 for their phone, just like they do on their flagships, and they do usually end up delivering more than that. Google Pixel phones are completely free from bloatware. Same goes for the iPhone. This is the definitive Android experience with pretty much every software feature still intact from the flagship Google Pixel 9s. You get all the Gemini smart assistant stuff, which is now a lot cleverer than it used to be. It feels kind of crazy to have this power at the press of a button now. You get the editing features like Add Me to be able to take 2 group shots and combine the results so everyone makes the cut. And the really rather impressive Magic Editor that lets you erase things, but also completely change up existing shots that you've already taken. And then on the other hand, this is the definitive iOS experience, with not really any software feature missing that the top-end phones have, unless you count Dynamic Island and camera control, but as software features, I'd consider those highly optional. Now that said, I actually personally think right now that Android, just generally as a platform, is in a better place than iOS is. There's way more AI features, while Apple's AI is floundering. It feels like it's getting more stable, which I can't say for iOS. And some of iOS's recent design changes, like the Photos gallery, I just find them baffling. So personally, I would say for software, Pixel gets a 9, iPhone gets a 7.